All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive on something pretty interesting. Uh, we're talking about Antarctica,
Hmm.
but not just like the penguins and the ice and stuff.
Right.
You shared some notes and an audio clip
Mhm.
from a show called Antarctica. Fallen angels of Genesis 6 are locked beneath the ice, which connects Antarctica to some pretty out there end times theories.
It definitely sounds like we're heading into some interesting territory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The audio clip claims that fallen angels
Okay.
are actually imprisoned beneath the Antarctic ice.
Wow.
They even suggest that these angels, often referred to as watchers, are influencing world events and waiting to be released in the end times.
You might be wondering why we're talking about a book that's not even in the Bible.
Yeah,
Well, the Book of Enoch, which mentions these watchers,
right.
offers a window into ancient beliefs about angels and demons.
Okay.
While most Christian denominations don't consider it part of the official biblical canon, it's been a source of fascination and debate for centuries.
And what's really fascinating is that the speaker in this clip believes that recent events like John Kerry's visit to Antarctica in 2016,
Oh, wow.
which happened to coincide with the U.S. election, and even rumors about Russia transporting something called the Ark of Gabriel to the continent, are evidence of this whole fallen angel conspiracy.
The Ark of Gabriel is a concept that doesn't have a clear origin or definition, even within the theories surrounding Antarctica.
Really?
Yeah, it seems to be a more recent addition to this web of ideas.
Interesting.
It highlights how these narratives evolve and grow over time, often incorporating new elements that capture people's imaginations.
The speaker also seems convinced that global warming is part of some elaborate scheme orchestrated by these demonic forces to corrupt the Earth and pave the way for the Antichrist's arrival.
It's interesting how this theory taps into anxieties about climate change, but frames it within a supernatural narrative.
Yeah.
It speaks to a desire to find explanations, even if they're rooted in fear or suspicion, especially when we're dealing with complex issues that can feel overwhelming.
That's a really good point. And it's not just environmental issues.
Right.
The speaker links things like chemtrails,
Yeah.
societal corruption, and pretty much every negative event to biblical prophecies, particularly those in the book of Revelation.
The Book of Revelation, with its vivid imagery and symbolism, has always been open to interpretation.
Yeah.
It's understandable that people might try to connect current events to those prophecies, but it's important to remember that interpretation is subjective and shouldn't be taken as literal fact.
The speaker also mentions Admiral Byrd's supposed encounter with a wise leader in a hollow earth beneath Antarctica, but doesn't really delve into the details.
Mm.
Have you ever looked into that?
Admiral Byrd's expeditions to Antarctica were groundbreaking in their time, but they also spawned a lot of myths and legends.
Oh, okay.
The idea of a hollow Earth where civilizations exist within our planet is one of those fascinating but scientifically unsupported ideas that capture the imagination.
It does make you wonder why Antarctica, of all places, seems to attract so many of these unconventional theories.
Well, it's a continent shrouded in mystery, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Its remoteness and harsh environment naturally lend themselves to speculation.
Right.
It's a blank canvas onto which people can project their fears, hopes, and interpretations of the world.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's like we're looking at a puzzle with pieces of history, religion, and current events scattered about, and everyone's trying to assemble those pieces in a way that makes sense to them.
I see what you mean. And what I find really interesting is how the speaker connects modern anxieties, things like chemtrails, global warming societal shifts, to these ancient biblical prophecies about the end of the world. It's almost like he sees a pattern, a blueprint for how things are supposed to unfold.
That idea of a preordained plan, a script for the end times, has resonated with people for centuries.
Right.
It can be both comforting and terrifying knowing that everything is supposedly leading to a specific outcome, a grand finale.
He really seems to believe that global warming in particular is a deliberate plot, like some kind of demonic scheme to corrupt the planet and set the stage for the Antichrist's arrival.
Yeah.
It's a pretty provocative take, to say the least.
It's a perspective that raises important questions about how we separate scientific consensus from more fringe theories.
Yeah.
While the scientific community overwhelmingly agrees that human activity is contributing to climate change, this theory frames it as a deliberate act of evil, which can be a dangerous line of thinking.
And yet, it's not just environmental concerns. He brings up all sorts of societal issues, things like moral decay, corrupt leaders, even genetically modified food and RFID chips.
Right.
He sees all of it as evidence of the world spiraling toward this biblically prophesied end.
That idea of a world in decline moving further and further away from some imagined golden age is a recurring theme in apocalyptic thinking.
Okay.
It often fuels a sense of urgency and fear, a feeling that we're on a runaway train headed for disaster.
He even draws a parallel to the story of Noah's Ark, suggesting that the world is becoming as corrupt as it was in the days before the flood.
Wow.
He talks about humanity messing with things we shouldn't, tampering with nature, creating things like robots and artificial intelligence that he views as unnatural.
It's fascinating how this narrative taps into both a fear of technological advancement and a yearning for a simpler time, a return to a more natural order.
Yeah.
It's a tension that has played out throughout human history, this push and pull between embracing innovation and fearing its consequences.
He paints a pretty bleak picture of the future darkness, chaos, violence, all culminating in the second coming of Christ. But even though he's describing this apocalyptic scenario, he somehow seems to find comfort in it.
That's the paradox of apocalyptic thinking.
Yeah.
While it's often framed in terms of destruction and judgment, it also offers a promise of ultimate redemption. It's the belief that even amidst chaos, a higher power is at work guiding events toward a predetermined end.
He even says that seeing all these events unfold, all these things seemingly lining up with biblical prophecy, actually strengthens his faith.
Okay.
It's like he's looking for signs of the end times everywhere he turns, and finding them only makes him more certain that his beliefs are true.
That's a great example of how confirmation bias can work.
Right?
When we're already predisposed to believe something, we tend to interpret information in a way that reinforces that belief, even if the evidence is ambiguous or open to multiple interpretations.
He also talks about UFOs, but he doesn't believe they're extraterrestrial. He's convinced they're actually demons sent to deceive people and lure them away from God. It's like he sees a spiritual battle playing out on a global scale with good versus evil, light versus darkness.
The idea of demonic deception is a powerful one within certain religious frameworks.
Yeah.
It speaks to the sense of spiritual warfare, a belief that there are unseen forces constantly trying to influence our thoughts and actions.
He even briefly touches on the flat earth theory, though he admits he's not totally on board with it. He's more intrigued by the idea that the scroll of the sky will roll up, as described in the Bible, and how that might work if the earth is actually flat. It seems like he's always making these connections between biblical imagery and the physical world, trying to piece together how it all fits.
It's a testament to the enduring power of metaphor and symbolism. These ancient texts continue to resonate with people today, offering interpretations of the world that go beyond the literal.
It's clear he's grappling with some pretty big questions here. The meaning of life, the nature of good and evil, the fate of humanity.
It sounds like he's really on a quest for answers, trying to reconcile his beliefs with the complexities of the world around him.
And he seems to find those answers, at least in part, by viewing the world through this lens of biblical prophecy.
Right.
It's like everything has a deeper meaning, a hidden significance that points toward the end times.
That perspective can be both empowering and limiting.
Yeah.
It can offer a framework for understanding events.
Well.
But it can also lead to a kind of tunnel vision where you only see what confirms your existing beliefs.
He talks about how, even though he doesn't consider himself a perfect Christian, he can't shake his faith. He sees the darkness in the world as proof that the light is coming, that Jesus' return is inevitable.
It's a powerful testament to the human need for hope, even in the face of despair. That belief that no matter how bad things get, there's a force for good that will ultimately prevail.
But he also admits that it's tough to stay positive sometimes, especially with all the negativity in the news.
Yeah.
He mentions things like pedophilia, corruption, violence, the kinds of things that make you want to just throw your hands up and give up.
It's a good reminder that even those with strong faith can struggle with doubt, fear, and anger.
Right.
It's a human experience to grapple with the complexities of the world and try to reconcile our beliefs with the reality around us.
He even admits that he gets overspoken at times, that he doesn't always react in the most Christ-like way. But he keeps coming back to this core belief that there's a bigger plan at play, that God is in control, and that good will ultimately triumph over evil.
It's a message of resilience, the idea that even when we falter, even when we doubt, we can find strength in our faith, our values, and our belief in something greater than ourselves.
Wow, that was a lot to take in. Definitely some thought-provoking ideas, even if they leave us with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion, only to find another layer underneath.
Ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide what we believe.
True.
But exploring these kinds of ideas, however unconventional they might seem, can spark our curiosity, encourage us to think critically, and maybe even lead us to discover new perspectives on the world around us.
So what stood out to you? What are you going to research next?
Right.
Let us know what rabbit holes you go down. We always love hearing from you.